Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about Circle Empire's Rivals. And overall, I am not really an RTS player. I normally prefer turn-based strategy games over RTSs, but every now and then an RTS game will catch my attention, and Circle Empire's Rivals is one of them. And just before we start, because I don't play a lot of RTS games, I do want to give kind of a disclaimer that this is coming from someone that doesn't have a lot of experience in this genre. So it will obviously affect my review versus, some like pro StarCraft player or something. But I will say something that this game does really well is it kind of streamlines some of what I don't like about RTSs, and that could be part of the appeal. It got me really interested in the game, and I got actually two of my friends to play it a bunch with me. One of them is kind of an RTS fan, but the other was like me and, mainly likes turn-based games and doesn't really like RTSs, but they had a lot of fun with this game as well. So overall, Circle Empire's Rivals is an RTS game that's pretty much based on like a grid of a bunch of different circles. So in the main game mode, you choose one of a ton of different leaders that all have different abilities and unique units, and everyone spawns in random circles. And so the first thing you kind of want to do is build your, base hut, and then from there you can start building workers. And when you build your workers, they automatically start gathering food and wood from the resources that are in your circles. And you can technically redirect them to specifically what they should be working on, but by default they just kind of work automatically, which I like because it allows people that are new to the RTS genre to just buy them, and they start working and you don't really have to worry about it anymore. And if they have nothing to do, it'll kind of notify you on the left side of the screen. But if you actually know specifically what you want them to do, you can redirect them, if you needed to. The next thing I normally did was build like these foresters, which will automatically create new trees in the circle. And that's nice because the workers will keep taking all of the resources until they disappear. So they're not infinite. So you kind of need these foresters to keep getting the wood replenished. And you can have only 2 of these in your circle. You can also build 1 bank per circle, and this just allows you to passively gain gold. And then you can also temporarily spend some wood to buy like these pumpkin things that allow your workers to, gives them something to do, and it starts giving you some food as well, but obviously it's not permanent. You can also do things like building walls to help protect your circle from certain sides, and you can build a ton of different towers like acid towers or fire towers or healing towers, and they all have their pros and cons and uses and whatnot. And what's cool is the towers not only just, defend if someone's attacking your circle, but they'll actually attack neighboring circles and help you fight if you're attacking someone. So if you want to take over a circle that's close by, you can actually build some towers offensively, which I really, really like. And so eventually you're gonna, get claustrophobic and you're gonna want to start expanding and start claiming some circles. And some of the circles are controlled by barbarians or small AI factions or monsters, and so you're gonna need to start building an army. And there are a ton of different units, and some of them do some really cool things. But, when you first start out, there's just a bunch of them, you don't really know what they do. So I kind of was just buying a wide variety, and then just slowly, while you're playing the game, you start realizing and actually learning what some of them do. So, there's some units that like cause your units to like go berserk. There's some units like these wizard apprentices that let them passively level up faster. There's obviously a ton of ranged and melee units that all feel really unique from each other and really awesome. And then, like I said earlier, there are, different unique units based on what leaders you pick. Normally each leader has like, a handful of unique units that only they can use. So one of, as an example, one of the leaders that I was playing as, they could build golems and like golem workers instead of workers, so that was kind of cool. And one thing I think this game does really well to help lower the skill floor is in each enemy circle you can see the total strength of their army, and if you select either some or all of your units you can see the total strength of your army. So this is obviously just a super oversimplified number because it doesn't take into account like the positioning of the units or the strengths and weaknesses of each unit, and also it doesn't really take into account the towers, but it's kind of just a good way at a glance to know, how powerful you are compared to like an enemy circle. So once you feel confident enough that you can, fight and take over a circle, you can send your army to attack. And you pretty much select your units like you would in any RTS game. You do the dragging box thing. You can set control groups, which is nice. I am not super experienced with that, but I was just doing basic things like separating my, melee units and ranged units, so my ranged units weren't like going in like the front lines and just dying immediately. with whatever you attack or select, you can tell them exactly what you want to attack. Otherwise, they'll pretty much just fight in the circle. And late game, especially in this main mode, the fights do tend to kind of just have a ton of units in them, so it kind of starts to get a little hectic and very busy. But that is kind of nice why they do fight on their own, so if you can't, focus or even see what specifically is attacking what, they all are going to just kind of keep attacking. And that's another thing that I think helps new people to the RTS genre, is that they do just kind of attack on their own in that circle. Obviously, you'll eventually get better and kind of know, maybe I should be targeting these towers, but just, at a face value, when you first start playing, everything just attacks automatically, which is nice. And if you kill all the enemies and all the buildings in that circle, you take control of the circle, and that allows you to place workers in there and start getting resources. You can create the foresters and the banks and the towers that we talked about earlier. And so ideally, you want to have as many circles as possible, or at least more than the just first one you had. And on top of that, there's also like this research lab that allows you to keep researching different things, like having increased wood or food production, or having more armor or DPS in your units, or just some other unique things. And eventually in this main mode, you either conquer everything and win, or you die trying. And that's just the base game mode, and there's actually a lot of fun to be had in this base game mode. It is kind of like the core, game mode. So like any RTS, there's a lot of depth in this, a lot of different strategies and, things you can focus on. But this game has 6 different game modes, and a lot of them are actually really fun. So the next game mode that I really, really liked is like a roguelike mode. And in the roguelike mode, resources don't respawn. So once your workers cut down all the trees or food sources in a circle, you can't really get any more. So you can't spawn those foresters, and you can't spawn the banks, and pretty much everything you buy, it matters, because you lose those resources. You're not going to get them back. And this is really unique because it keeps the game kind of slower paced, and you don't end up getting to like these huge, obnoxiously large armies. And on top of that, it makes conquering new circles really important, because you really need to do that in order to gain new resources, because otherwise you're not getting any more resources. And apparently, as far as I know, this was actually the main game mode in the older games, which I find really interesting. Just kind of your fun fact of the day, I guess. But I definitely see myself playing this mode a lot, because it is very unique, and it also makes all of the leaders that you pick more interesting, because each leader, a lot of the times, they do something special every time you conquer a circle. So maybe it'll get, wooden walls automatically, or it'll get like an acid tower automatically. And if you don't have, if you have limited resources, that actually matters a lot more. So I really like that aspect of it as well. There's also a mode called Monster Hunt, where the goal is, instead of trying to conquer all the circles, there's like this specific boss enemy that you gotta kill. And what's cool about this is if you beat like the boss, it actually unlocks like a new boss that you can fight in the future, and they all have special things, or themes or attacks or stuff like that. So that adds a ton of replayability value. Kind of similar, there's also a mode called Stop the Army, where it's pretty much like Monster Hunt, except you have to defeat this giant army that's going throughout all the circles and wrecking havoc. And then like Monster Hunt, the more armies you defeat, it unlocks more armies you get to face in the future, which is really cool. There's also a mode called King Hunt, which is like the normal game mode, except the goal is to kill the enemy's king. So every player has a king that you have to protect, instead of just taking all the land. There's also a mode called Imperial Conflict, which is just like the normal mode, except that there are like more AIs that are actually like trying to do what you're doing and take over everything. So that's just very interesting. And so between the 6 game modes and all the unlocks in the game modes, there's a ton of replayability in this game. And speaking of replayability, like I was talking about earlier, all those leaders, there is a ton of them. And every time you get your first win for each leader, a lot of the times you actually unlock a new leader, and there are a lot of them. So that is like just another thing to slowly work towards. And what I really like about this game is there's just so much fun to have in it. I mean, whether you're playing versus or co-op, because yeah, you could play just the normal game mode for hundreds of hours and have a ton of that in versus, or you could do fun things like playing Stop the Army with some friends, and all you guys are on the same team and trying to kill that army together or whatnot. And so the game streamlines some aspects of the RTS genre while still having a ton of depth in terms of all the different units and leaders and strategies. And I also really like the concept of having the grids of, the grid of circles, because it really makes clear what you should be constantly doing in the next step. And it kind of lets you compartmentalize, whatever that word's pronounced, you know, what is happening. You know, you can be like, okay, I have 4 circles, he has 3 circles, you know, I'm doing better than him, but, you know, I need to, it just kind of helps visualize what is happening a lot more. And it's just a very unique concept. I mean, all the circles, you know, some of them are like water circles, and like there are certain units that you can only spawn in like the water, like this Kraken head, and so there's even more depth in terms of the circles, but I think it's just a really awesome and cool concept. I really love the art style in this game. All the units are like these really cool looking cartoons that kind of remind me of Flash games. The online works really well. I haven't had any issues with it at all. Haven't experienced any bugs or anything like that. You know, I am playing kind of a week and a half after the launch, but it runs really well. It plays well. It looks good. It sounds good. I really enjoyed this game. And like I said, I am not a big RTS guy, but I've been enjoying this game. So I think even if you are, you know, obviously if you are an RTS fan, I think you could find some fun in this because it still has the depth, just, you know, by making it more approachable for new players. And if you don't like RTSs traditionally, you still could find this fun. I mean, I do, and I'm not a big fan of RTSs. And that's really impressive when you can, I feel, you know, impress both kind of parts of that spectrum, both sides of that spectrum. So either way, if you have played this game or just if you've, you know, from watching gameplay, I would love to know your opinions on this game in the comments down below. So definitely let me know. If you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. New videos come out about twice a week. We review all types of different games. And if you have any recommendations for new games that are coming out that you want my opinions on, let me know in the comments down below. And overall, guys, if you guys are having a great day today, I hope you continue having a great day. If you guys aren't having a great day, I hope you guys start having a great day. But either way, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. See you guys next time.